Semitic Magic, Its Origins and Development by R. Campbell Thompson. Chapter 1. The Demons and Ghosts. Throughout the Near East, from prehistoric times down to the present day, the inhabitants have been firmly convinced that supernatural beings, to use a general expression, are capable of inflicting grievous hurt upon them, and the maladies and bodily ills to which they are subject are directly due to this baneful power. The modern natives of Iraq, Syria, Barbary, and others, I'm sure, have inherited from their forebears a legacy of superstitions and beliefs which show little variation from the pristine simplicity and throw new light on many ancient Semitic ideas. Although in most instances the specific names of the demons of one Semitic dialect have no etymological connection with those of another, and the few cases in Hebrew and Syriac, which are in opposition to this statement, seem to have been borrowed at a comparatively late period, the ideas which are still current show us the more ancient forms of hobgoblins, vampires, spooks, and devils exist under various titles with several attributes that were assigned to them by the Babylonians, who cultivated one of the most elaborate and intricate systems of ancient magic that we know of. In making an examination into the ancient witchcraft, we shall therefore avail ourselves of as much of modern folklore as may serve to elucidate the older superstitions, and by a comparison of the magic of the ancients with that of their descendants, try to obtain some glimpse of the beliefs of the primitive Semite. It will be admitted readily that once the system of demonology has been evolved, at least three classes of spirits must be recognized. The simplest and most universal form of those was the disembodied spirit, the souls of men or women who have died and changed their earthly shape for an incorporeal one. Second to this comes the supernatural being, who never was earthly, a phantom or demon, often of such grotesque or horrid shape or savage imagination might invent. Lastly, we have a class of demons, half ghostly, half human, the offspring of intermarriage between the human beings and the spirit world, just as we find demigods of half-divine origin in all mythologies. Taking each of these classes in turn, we shall be able, by a comparison of the different ideas prevailing among the Semitic and other peoples of the East, to form some substantial basis for critical insight into this phase of theology, inasmuch as the Assyrian incantations show systematic demonology which is at the same time the earliest at our disposal. The several Assyrian names for devils form an excellent starting point in the various species. The first class, then, is that of the disembodied spirit. The main idea concerning the ghost is that it returns to this world from the place of the departed spirits, making its presence observed either by a visible, as it was in the flesh, or making an unseen attack on some man that it is stricken down by disease. The reasons for its restlessness are many. The soul finds no peace if its corporeal shape is unburied, or if its descendants cease to feed it by paying its due rites. Libations or sacrifices are 100 other causes which are frequently set forth at length in the cuneiform incantations. Among the Syrian word used for this ghost was Demu, and like other nations, they believed that the soul could return to the earth, and these ghosts they ascribed many of their bodily ills. Two texts published by L.W. King and translated by Hunger show, as Hunger points out, that we must read Edemu and not Ekemu. The variants Ede-eme and Ete-im-me-im leave no manner of doubt that Ekemu is wrong. I had hitherto thought that it meant the thing snatched away, as it has always been referred to the root Ekemu, to rob, although with what is probably an impossible translation, the Caesar, where it was compiled. In ordinary circumstances, when a person died and was duly buried, his soul entered the underworld, the house of darkness, the seat of the entity Irkala, the house from which none that enter come forth again, where it was compelled to feed on the dust and mud of Sheol among the Hebrews. According to the most primitive beliefs, we have very little direct knowledge. In historic times, its principal characteristic is in darkness, the word for dust being used as a synonym. We can refer to Tammuz here. It was under the earth and was described as a place from which one did not return. And as in the Assyrian picture of the descent of Ishtar is portrayed as a city with gates. And we've seen parallels with Job 10:21, Job 17:16, Job 11:8, Job 7:10, and Isaiah 38:10. The dead would be known by their dress, the old man by his robe, the soldier by his sword, but Sheol is independent of Yahweh in early times, and there is little change down to the 4th century BCE. Pretty close to the appearance of Judaism as far as something that's mentioned as such. In the primitive belief, when a man dies, he's removed from the jurisdiction of Yahweh and there are no more relations between them. The rabbis believed that it was a place called Chetzer Mut. And what would that be in Hebrew? That would be Chetzer Muth, which derives its name from the fact that it is assigned to the departed souls of men. It represents a building with a courtyard encircled by a fence. Before the courtyard flows a river, adjoining which is a field. Every day, Duma leads out the spirits to pasture in the field and to drink of the river. And we've seen correlations between Samuel 28:14, Ezekiel 32:27, Isaiah 14, Psalms 88:5, and Isaiah 38:18. The Kabbalists believe in metempsychosis from the body of one species into the body of another species. Some of the latter sages of the Kabbalah say that the soul of an unclean person will transmigrate into an unclean animal or into creeping things or reptiles. For one form of uncleanness, the soul will be invested with the body of a Gentile who will become a proselyte. For another, the soul will pass into the body of a mule. For others, it transmigrates into a donkey, a woman of Ashdod, a bat, a rabbit, or a hare, a she-mule or a camel. Ishmael transmigrated first into the she-donkey of Balaam, and subsequently into the donkey of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. So we see symbolic correlations of why people believe in reincarnation and what it might actually mean instead. According to Sale, the Mohammedans have various beliefs concerning the future destination of the souls of the dead. Some say that they stay near the tombs with the liberty of going where they please. Others that they were with Adam in the lowest heaven, are in Zamzam, are that they stay near the graves for 7 days, or that they are all in the trumpet, which is to wake the dead, or finally that they take the form of white birds under the throne of God. Don't they mean green? But a lot of these are under misunderstandings. When a misbeliever comes forth from the graves, his works shall be presented to him under the ugliest form he ever beheld, and it shall ride upon him. And George Sale's commenting on Surah 6 and certain the Arabs, believing in a metempsychosis, thought that if the blood near the dead person's brain was formed a bird named Hama, which once in 100 years visited the sepulchre, though others say this bird is animated by the soul of him who is unjustly slain and continually cries out, Askuni, Askuni, give me to drink, meaning of the murderer's blood, till his death is avenged, and then it flies away. When a corpse is laid in the grave, al-Muslimin say he is received by an angel, who gives him notice of the coming of the two examiners, which are two black angels of a terrible appearance, named Munkar and Nakir. A man passing by the grave of a friend, he should hail this. Oh, if a man is passing by the grave of a friend, he should hail the soul with a greeting. The Syriac beliefs are given in the Book of the Bee. When the soul goes forth from the body, as Abba Isaiah says, the angels go with it. Then the hosts of darkness go forth to meet it, seeking to seize it and examine it, if there be anything of theirs in it. As to where the souls abide from the time they leave their bodies until the resurrection, some say that they are taken up to heaven, that is, to the region of the spirits where the celestial hosts dwell. Others say that they go to paradise, that is, the place which is abundantly supplied with good things of the mystery of the revelations of God, and that the souls of sinners lie in darkness in the abyss of Eden outside paradise. Others say that they are buried with their bodies, that is to say, that the two were buried in God at baptism. So also will they now dwell in him until the day of resurrection. Others say that they stand at the mouth of the graves and await their Redeemer. That is to say, they possess the knowledge of the resurrection of their bodies. Others say that they are, as it were, in a slumber because of the shortness of the time. The Yazidis, the devil worshippers of the Sinjar Hills in Mesopotamia, say that the spirits of the wicked men take up their abode in dogs, pigs, donkeys, horses, or after suffering a while, rehabilitate as men. The spirits of the good inhabit the air to show the secrets of our world. Now, if the attributes of its friends on earth should cease, and the soul shall find nothing to eat or drink, then it was driven by the force of hunger to come back to earth to demand its due. This is described on a Syrian tablet which begins, the entities which seize upon man have come forth from the grave. The evil wind gusts have come forth from the grave to demand the payment of rights and the pouring of libations. They have come forth from the grave. All that is evil of those seven hath come like a whirlwind. Remember what I did in the Ostara ritual this year, referring to the evil seven, and we see in mainstream scriptures, we realize angels, that could be the entities that we're talking about. People worship angels, but then we're given a new light on this subject. Like Surah 79, for example, holds a lot of parallels with this. Are another, the evil spirit, the evil demon, the evil ghost, the evil devil, from the earth have come forth. From the pure abode unto earth they have come forth. In heaven they are unknown, on earth they are not understood. They neither stand nor sit. He cannot eat food nor drink water. In this latter text, however, the reference is more to devils or demons than to ghosts. But, as will be seen later, the class of spirits are much confused with one another. One of the most interesting passages in the Gilgamesh legend describes the raising of the spectra of Ea Bane from Hades. The Babylonian hero Gilgamesh attempts to see his friend Ea Bane, who has died, and the entity Nergal is directed by Ea to restore Ea Bane to earth. The shade of the dead man rises through an opening made by the entity in the earth, like the wind, a transparent spectre in human shape. Ea Bane then describes what he has seen in the underworld. The man whose corpse lieth in the desert Thou and I have often seen such a one. His spirit resteth not in earth, the man whose spirit hath none to care for it. Thou and I have often seen such an one. The dregs of the vessel, the leavings of the feast, and that which is cast out into the street are his food. The last is also the condition of the neglected spirit according to Egyptian theology. If offerings were not paid to the deceased in Egypt, he was obliged to wander into unclean places and eat such filth and drink such dirty water as he might find in the course of his wretched wanderings. And Job 4:15 talks about, then a breath passed before my face. Tamur Atamar is translated as Sastu Seheik, something about me. Thou and I have often seen such a one. Okay. We see reference to a 12th tablet, the Book of the Dead, chapters 52, 53, and 44. An Egyptian stele puts into the mouth of a dead wife the following adjuration to her living husband: O my comrade, O my husband, cease not to eat and drink, to be drunken, to enjoy the love of women, to hold festival. Follow thy longings by day and night. Give care no room in thy heart. For the West Land is a land to sleep in darkness, a dwelling place wherein those are there remain. They sleep in their mummy forms. They wake no more to see their comrades. They neither see father nor mother. Their heart does not yearn for wife or children. On earth each drinks the water of life, but I suffer with thirst. Water comes to him that sojourns on earth, but I pine for the water that is by me. I long for the breeze on the bank of the river to soothe my heart in its woe. For the name of this entity who rules here is total death. At his call all men come unto him, trembling with fear. He makes no difference between entities and men. In his eyes, high and low are equal. Powers, maybe instead of, maybe we could say the word powers. He shows no favor to him who loves him. He carries away the child from his mother and the gray-haired man alike. None comes to worship him, for he is not gracious to his worshippers, and he pays no heed to him who brings gifts to him. Whiteman's The Realms of Egyptian Dead, translated by Hutchinson, page 28. It is clear that offerings of sacrificial blood and libations, when poured on the ground, were believed to percolate through the supernatural beings under the earth. When Eabani and Gilgamesh desire a dream, they ascend into a mountain, dig a hole, and pour an offering of uputo meal into it, as an offering to the mountain, praying, O mountain, bring a dream, grant him. A similar belief in necromancy is shown among the Hebrews, where Saul goes to visit a woman with a familiar spirit at Endor. She brings Samuel out of the earth, and he answers the questions which Saul wishes to ask, or at least it appears so. 1 Samuel 28:8. Tertullian says, the magicians call it ghost, phantasmata, and dishonor the souls of those long dead. They smother young boys to make them gasp out oracles. They play off marbles with the trickery of jugglers. And 1 Samuel 2:6. Yahweh bringing down to Sheol and raising up. The very name of a class of magicians, Musalu, Edimu, raiser of the departed spirit, among the Assyrians, show how great a hold such practices held over the people. I don't know about this. Supposed to be an Islamic tradition, Christ raises Shem, the son of Noah. Perhaps it's an Arab, it's a non-canonical Christian saying, and they're just saying, oh, it happens among the Arabs, so it must be Muslim. No. The son of Noah, who, thinking he had been called to judgment, came out of his grave with his head half gray, whereas men did not grow gray in his days, after which he immediately died again. And George Sale is referring to Surah 3, but actually this is an extra biblical comment. Okay. If the bones of the dead were removed from the tomb, the spirit at once became restless and was compelled to roam about the earth homeless. Ashurbanipal relates how he desecrated the tombs of the kings of Elam by carrying away their bones and causing their rites to cease, that their bodies might have no rest. The grave is always the most likely place to see a spirit. In 1906, when I was traveling in the eastern provinces of the Sudan among the Bisharin and Hadendawas, one of the Sudanese servants who was left in sole charge of the camp for a few nights declared that he had seen a ghost rise from a grave and approach him. In Egypt, Cambyses had Amasis' body drug forth from its tomb to be mangled and burnt. On the other hand, Shamash Shum Ukin relates that he reinstated the rites and libations to the kings who had preceded him, which had for a time been abrogated. It was usual to curse future desecrators. May his name be destroyed, may his seed be blotted out, may his life be ended in want and famine, may his corpse be cast out that it may have no tomb. On the sarcophagus of Eshmunazar, the Phoenician king, has inscribed a curse on all those who shall disturb his rest. May they have no resting place with the shades, nor buried in a grave, nor have son or seed. And there's evidently some idea of this in Jeremiah's prophecy. Jeremiah 8:1. At that time, also the digging foreign tombs for bones of Joseph carried home, Exodus 13:19. Okay. And the prophecy goes, at that time, saith the Lord. God is a noun and verb. I don't think the Lord is ever, well, I guess there's a couple places, but let's just presume that's not how it was translated. At the time, saith God is a noun and verb. They shall bring out the bones of the kings in Judah, and the bones of his princes, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem, out of their graves, and they shall spread them before the sun and the moon and all the hosts of heaven, whom they have loved, and whom they have served, and after whom they have walked, and whom they have sought, and whom they have worshipped. They shall not be gathered, nor be buried. They shall be for dung upon the face of the earth. We're seeing sort of reference to the whole, what made its way into the Zoroastrian tradition of the bodies left out and then the bones being collected in a pit. But this is, more specified, as in knowing whose bones are whose. And similarly, in the tomb inscriptions of Hedra in Arabia, written in Nabatean about the beginning of our era, the common era, the maker of a family vault frequently calls down curses on future meddlers. May Dushara and Manuthu and Aisha curse all those who sell this tomb or buy it, or pledge it, or give it away, or let it out for hire, or write any inscription thereon, or bury therein any except those whose names are mentioned. For this tomb and inscription are haram, as the haram of the Nabateans and the Shalamians. The ancient superstitions on the effect of disturbing a grave reappear in the modern Mohammedan opinion. It was by best advice of Lord Kitchener caused the destruction of the Mahdi's body after the Battle of Durman in 1898. Now, actually, in Islam, they it's not about the body, and they actually move bodies. They dig into the graves to see if there's room for more corpses when graveyards become full. So that's not thought to stand against anybody whatsoever. Some of the best graves are thought of in that regard, that, oh, the body's down to bones, let's put another one in here. And another, whether the Assyrians believed in Kismet is uncertain. In the legend of Zu, we read from the Tablets of Destiny being stolen by Zu from heaven. Shimtu is the usual word for fate, and a common euphemism for death is to say Shimtu, Ubilshu, fate carried him off. Ataraku, Zaru, Shimtum, Ubtil, Arginu, Alette, Etar, Kurnugi. It might be Akuraku, but ch is the line, the circle line underneath could be it too. I rest alone. The father destiny carried him off. The mother that bore me hath gone to the land whence none return. Marduk is the entity. Mushim, Shemate Shah, Elani, Kalama, that determineth the fates of all the entities. But the phrase Ina Umla Shimtishu Uru Chish, yeah, that makes sense. Imtut, Sennacherib 5:2. He died prematurely in a day. La Shim Tishu shows that the idea is more than that of an allotted span. Here, at any rate, then, of any predestination, the possible reference to the Tablets of Destiny is found in Exodus 32:33. Whosoever hath sinned against me, him I will blot out of my book. Among the Arabs, Allahul Mahfuz is the name from the preserved tablet in which the decrees of God are recorded with reference to mankind. Well, Allahul Mahfuz actually refers to the scripture more than it does that, but indelible records, yeah. The possibility of avoiding death is the subject of an incident in the Epic of Gilgamesh. After Eabani's death, Gilgamesh, in terror of such a fate, goes in search of Sitna Pishtim. I indeed will not die like Eabani. Woe hath entered my body, I fear death. But Sitnapishtim tells him that he cannot escape the common lot, but there is a wonderful plant called Shibu Esachir Amelu. The old man made young to manhood. Gilgamesh starts in search of it, saying that he will eat of it and return to his youth. He finds the plant and comes upon a pool of cool water in which he bathes, but a snake, a denizen of the spring, scents the plant and darts out and carries it off, leaving Gilgamesh lamenting over its loss. Under certain circumstances, the soul of a dead man never entered the underworld. For instance, it is a universal belief that the departed spirit can find no rest so long as its body remains unburied. In the Assyrian incantations, we find long lists of ghosts exorcised, each severally described with the reason of its return. The reason that these lists are so long is that the sorcerer, as has been explained elsewhere, may show that he knows the name of the particular ghost he is exorcising. Whether thou art a ghost that hath come from the earth, or one that lieth dead in the desert, or one that lieth dead in the desert uncovered with earth, are a ghost unburied, are a ghost that none careth for, are a ghost with none to make offerings, are a ghost with none to pour libations, are a ghost that hath left no posterity. The last line that could be Sakar Shume La Isha, that hath no naming of a name. We may see in these last lines one of the reasons for the great desire of the Semites for children, particularly males, to perpetuate the family name. Indeed, this is not surprising when it is remembered how universal a custom it is to sacrifice to the dead, with the duty naturally devolving upon the children. It is as common among the Semites as among other nations. It was clearly a belief among the Assyrians. It is the same with the Hebrews. I have not eaten thereof in my mourning, neither have I put away thereof being unclean, nor given thereof for the dead. Deuteronomy 26:14. An Assyrian text describes the feast of an evil spirit. Thy food is the food of ghosts, thy drink is the drink of ghosts. In the Nestorian burial service, it is said that the dead are more abundantly helped by qurbana and requiems and alms which are done on their behalf. Qurbana as in sacrifices. They attain rest of their souls and expiation for their sins without doubt. Or for the dead, okay. An offering to the dead among the Hebrews, are we to think of the mere unluckiness of anything connected with the dead? Hosea 9:4, or some form of worship, as in Isaiah 8:19. Among the Sabaeans, a feast used to be made to the dead in the month of Tisra. Each man would buy all sorts of food, meats, or fresh and dried fruit, and cook sweetmeats, burning them all night for the dead, and also pouring libations on the fire. They had also a curious custom of burning the thigh bone of a camel or the dog of the witch, Hecate, that he may not bark at the dead. The Persians used to believe that the ghosts of their ancestors were in the habit of returning to one of their feasts, Tabarjan. Among the later Hebrews, parents were forbidden to wash during the first days of the mourning for their dead child. And, okay, there was a particular belief about the Athenians from Hesychius that the souls of the dead came back from the netherworld and went about the city. The people smeared their houses with pitch, apparently thinking that they would thus be rendered unrecognizable. For ghosts and the disposal of the dead body and worship of the ghosts from the east. And we'll have to continue this later.